Attention bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen!
Good day, my fellow yodelers and listening yodelers. We're here in the future.
The future, Japheth?
Yes.
Whoa, it looks
the same.
It
looks like 1996. That's right. I have been slamming Tomorrowland. But wait. I gotta introduce you guys. I totally skipped over that.
I don't think they know who we are.
I don't think they know
It's
who
a
we are.
mystery.
Because we're in the future. Alright. Yodeler.
Jacket?
And Yodeler.
Peter!
And I'm Yodeler Japheth. And we are the Matterhorn Yodelers, and we are going to talk about Tomorrowland, because it needs some work. It has not changed since 1996. 98.
I think it was 98.
No, that should have been a trivia question.
It should have been a trivia question. I would have got that one right.
So I've been dogging and ragging on Tomorrowland for a long time, and I thought it would be good for us to work, or we come up with our own Tomorrowland, and we can discuss like how to make it better. What would make it more appealing? Because I think it's the forgotten one. Not like Toontown. That's just completely forgotten. Tomorrowland was an original land, and Walt, on opening day in 1955, in his dedication for Tomorrowland, he goes, "Tomorrowland is a vista into a world of wondrous ideas signifying man's achievements, and it's a step into the future with predictions of constructive things to come." And I think they've lost their way.
Well, I mean, to be fair, even Walt Disney knew at the time when Disneyland was opening that Tomorrowland was going to be a problem, because it was literally the last land built because they didn't know what to do with it.
They're like, we'll deal with it tomorrow. That's it. We'll call it Tomorrowland. Procrastination land.
And honestly, yeah, and that's what happened. And when it came out, Walt Disney then came to the realization, oh, this land isn't like Frontierland and Adventureland. It's changing. So, like, you have attractions like Flight to the Moon became pointless when we went to the moon.
Yeah.
And so they had to change it to Mission to Mars. And so, like...
Well, they should have kept that. That one would have been more...
And so, like, that's a big struggle. Tomorrowland's, not just at Disneyland, but throughout the world, have all struggled with in terms of trying to stay relevant. And so...
And that kind of brings up a question. It's like, do you just scratch the whole land idea of Tomorrowland?
Yes, burn it to the ground. No.
There were always the rumors of, like, turn Tomorrowland into Star Wars Land.
Right. That was a big one.
Like, you got Star Tours there. Just go with it. Space Mountain, you just theme it a little differently.
I mean, they had Hyperspace Mountain,
Yeah.
That Star Wars overlay.
I remember that.
But then they made Star Wars Land.
And you're like, well, that's a little awkward. Like, you don't want to turn that into Star Wars Land and then have Galaxy's Edge, and you're like, okay, well, what are we going to do with Toontown? Oh, bulldoze it. We'll just have Small World floating in the middle of Star Wars Land. We'll call it Ewok Land, like...
Yum, yum.
I think we're on to something here. All right. What are we doing at Fantasyland?
That's a great idea. Forget about Tomorrowland overlay. Let's do an Ewok, It's a Small World, Yub Nub for 12 minutes. Let's do it.
If you didn't like Return of the Jedi for the Ewoks, you're going to hate this ride. It's going to turn it into Mustafar, and that's going to be caused by the guests. They're going to burn it down. Again, we brought this into Star Wars. I apologize, yodelers.
It's fair, though, because Star Wars is already a part of Tomorrowland. So it's all
true. Okay, all right. I get a pass there.
There's a pass. Yeah.
All right, so I've tasked my yodelers to come up with their vision of Tomorrowland. So we're going to go through, and we're going to use like the existing rides there and kind of, do we keep it or do we leave it? Or how do we change it to make it better? So, Jackie, why don't you give us your vision of tomorrow?
So when I was thinking about this, I was like, what is tomorrow, right? There's no way, like, really identifying how Tomorrowland will be, but I thought what the next of how tomorrow we want it to be as far as more eco-friendly, and a more of a lifestyle that we want to live may not be achievable, but at Disneyland, it could be achievable.
Got to start somewhere, like a
Right.
goal, right?
So you want to go back to the House of Plastic?
How's
For those that don't know, that there was an attraction at Disneyland called Monsanto's House of the Future, where everything was made out of plastic.
It was a big thing.
It was a big thing in the 60s.
No, I think the main thing is to add height to Tomorrowland.
Ooh.
You want to go up? Okay.
I want to go up, and I also want to add more green. Like green plants, and like different type of plants, You've got like blue and purple type of like interesting looking plants.
Make it exotic, like a foreign planet almost, but yet
Exactly.
it's here.
But it's here.
Okay.
It would be almost like the story of we're on planet Earth, right? But have been missions going to other planets, bringing those items from other planets to here on Earth to change the way we live.
Okay. So we're not abandoning Earth.
We're
enhancing it.
enhancing it
Okay.
with different things from other planets. And so, but then also with like Tomorrowland with the current Tomorrowland, you kind of have just like thrown in attractions that may not kind of mix well. Like when you first walk in, you got Buzz Lightyear, and it's like a concrete kind of building. And I would almost want to make it, add that kind of a story of maybe making it like a comic book store, and you're going into a Buzz Lightyear comic book, and
Okay, so you're keeping the Buzz Lightyear theme.
keeping the Buzz Lightyear theme, but more of like theming the outside of it to have more of a story of what's bringing you into
The world.
into
Okay.
that world. And then, of course, I love Star Tours, and it still has a pretty good theming of it, like being a transport to other worlds. And you could totally still have that, but maybe just retheming it more of like an airport style building. You have some, and then also have like more of a more design of the outside of like height with like glass or solar panels. That is just when you look at it, it's beautiful.
Okay. They're not looking at like metal, like supply station.
Exactly.
Like you're not in a moon base, but kind of like next level, like modern style.
Modern. Add height, but I wouldn't want to add height at the front of the entrance, but more towards the back of Tomorrowland. Because I think once you walk towards the back of Tomorrowland, it kind of lacks. And then you get to like Autopia, and you're like, little kids can drive car. What is so
Hey, gas is the future.
Gas.
We're in a Mad Max world.
And so it's just like, you can get rid of it overall, but, that deals with, like, the classic of it all, right? So, maybe change it to flying car, having it where it looks like it's a flying car.
So the blue lights underneath the car.
Blue lights underneath the car.
Tokyo Drift style. Vin Diesel will be your guest. Be like, hey, they start driving.
Of course,
we need a little bit less Fast and Furious in our theme parks. If you've seen the Fast and Furious attraction at the Universal,
Oh, it's pretty bad.
Is it bad?
It's pretty horrendous.
Yeah, all the
Good
reviews
answer,
are
because this is
bad.
a Disney podcast,
That's
so
right.
we're not going to support anything.
It's bad.
But also, because you also have the Matterhorn. So I would love to...
Is the Matterhorn a part of Tomorrowland? That's kind of always been the debate.
It's been So technically, as of right now, it's classified as part of Fantasyland.
I thought so.
But at one point, it was separated into two. There was the Fantasyland side, and then there was the Tomorrowland side.
Because you do have a track that goes along.
Correct. And there was at one point, I think when it first opened, it was considered part of Tomorrowland.
Yeah, the sky buckets going through. That's kind of cool.
Correct. So it was that like transition point into Fantasyland, or vice versa.
Yeah. From one world to the next, or land.
And so I definitely want to bring more natural design into Tomorrowland. When I think of Tomorrowland, I don't think of like a ton of concrete and metal, and that's just not what I see, but I see more of like, gardens on top of buildings, and,
You want to look pretty.
I want it to look pretty.
You want a future that's pretty.
Yeah.
Not concrete and bronze
Boring.
paint.
And just like different shape of plants. I was looking at like the trees. I wish they would shape them a little bit more into like, just
Edward Scissorhands, sort of.
Exactly.
That's what we're going to use with like little scissors on our hands.
I want art. I want a future of like art, but more an eco-friendly type of living, where it's city mixed with nature.
Okay, so you've gone with the exterior. What rides are changing? Like, which one? Let's start with which ones you're keeping. What rides are you going to keep?
So, I would say here we keep most of them. Honestly, I would get rid of Autopia if needed. To fit like probably
it
like
needs to be.
I mean,
Autopia. It's one of those things. Like it's like a double-edged sword. It's got it's a classic attraction. Been there since opening day. But it's also it's very popular. Still long lines for that attraction.
I don't get it.
But it's a giant space eater.
Oh.
It takes up a huge portion of the park.
And they can honestly
It's
easily
like Jungle
tear
Cruise.
it down.
It's exactly
and put
like Jungle
Tron
Cruise.
there.
Tron would be a good addition right there, yeah. And for those who don't know, Tron is a roller coaster at Shanghai Disneyland that's there, and it's
currently
really cool.
under construction at Disney World, but who knows when it will actually open.
But I recommend just go to YouTube and look up the Tron roller coaster. The experience is really cool. And if you haven't seen the movie with Tron Legacy, I think it's
Tron
called.
Legacy is it's more designed,
not the 1980
designed
version.
off of. Yes.
Yeah. It's fun. It's just that looks like the future. You look at that and it's just like, oh yeah, that's what I want my future to look like. It's just next level. So I think that would be a good addition. I do add that. I do the exact same change.
Yeah,
to
I
mine.
think Tron is like the next step of Tomorrowland. And also, like I said, like the story is, other planets were bringing resources down to Earth to make it better. And so to have that constant movement of like ships flying in and landing on Earth, right? And you're like, well, how do you do that? And so, when you first walk...
We'll deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah.
On our next podcast, we'll deal with fixing Tomorrowland.
Well, and when you first walk in on the side of the buildings where it's like the overflow for like Star Tours and like above like the gift shop of like Buzz Lightyear, there's like these murals of like planets and like ships and stuff. I wish they would digitalize it. And have constant, like, movement.
Ooh, digitized, where there's, like, fluidity and
then,
the exterior.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I've seen some cool advertisement in, like, other countries where they show the kind of 3D graphic advertisements and stuff like that. Like Jaws 21.
Was that what the Jaws was in Back to the Future?
It was Jaws 20-something.
Yeah.
Where it comes and attacks you.
As far as attractions, I don't have any, brand new attractions
No new ideas.
No new ideas to add.
So more of just, let's fix the
design.
exterior, and that will make it better.
And to open up, like, get rid of the old people mover tracks. Oh, I hate them.
So we're getting rid of where you used to load up for rocket rods and people mover. So that track's getting completely eliminated. So you're going to have that open space
in the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah. And then get rid of the stage that's in the eating area.
Oh no, I
and
love
redo it. Yeah.
The Tomorrowland Terrace.
And in the middle, I would
You're going
love...
to say Tomorrowland Terrace. I was like...
Well, I imagine there are some people that would like to be a terrorist in Tomorrowland.
Well,
Sure.
and by getting rid of that big middle structure, right, that's kind of like the center point.
It was kind of like the castle of Tomorrowland.
It's kind of...
It's referred to as the weenie of the land.
The weenie of the
That
land.
is a literal term that they use. It's the weenie, the thing that draws you into the land. Because you got the castle that brings you into the land. You had
So it's the center of gravity for the
things
land.
that brings you in. For Frontierland, it was the Mark Twain. That was the weenie. That was the thing that pulled you in. So like every land had the thing that like if you look down, that's what you would see, and that's what would bring you in.
When you walk in, you do see that.
And so I don't know what it would be, but it would be like a new pole to the center of the land, but more structurally like designed and taller.
Okay.
Whether it's like an entire glass building.
Throw in a
or-
Frank Lloyd Wright kind of design in there.
You know how like Chicago has like the beam.
The bean, yes. I can see that. Are you satisfied with like the restaurants? Is there like, would you like to see more of a high end, or are you fine with just the quick service restaurants that they got going on there?
You know, I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, if they kind of like slapped on like the retro, like Pizza Planet kind of feel, and
The Atomic Age style from like the 50s and 60s.
right, and I think it would be fun to kind of have like a retro kind of Tomorrowland as one of the restaurants, but then the main one in the middle kind of upscale it a bit and.
The one in the middle. Do you mean the ones by like where the stage is?
Yeah, where the stage is.
So instead of doing quick service there, kind of like bump it up a little bit.
Well, it would still be quick service, but it'd be more of like a
Compared to
cafe, a modern cafe style.
Okay. So equivalent. What would be its equivalent in another land that you're kind of visioning? It's like something in New Orleans, like Square. How they have like the one French restaurant.
French Quarter?
French Quarter, yeah. French Quarter. Is it kind of like that level, or is it... Because, like, quick service there is, like, what's existing there is, like, your burgers, your fries,
Right.
your chicken nuggets, you know, that stuff. It's...
I mean, you would almost bring kind of like how they have designed food at Galaxy Edge.
Okay, what do they have there?
So
Because I've never been there.
So Galaxy Edge, you know, they've got like...
Fried tip nip. But just fried chicken.
Yeah. You
Okay.
know, you got
that
like...
wasn't real tip net.
You can do, like, the fried chicken. They have, like, you know, rib, like... They have, like, a rib thing. Or, like, green salad that's, like, with little noodles and stuff. So kind of more of, like, an alien-inspired...
More blue milk.
Yeah, blue milk.
Blue or green milk?
No, it'll be purple milk.
Purple milk? Why not? It's like the purple ketchup.
But
The green one.
Ugh.
We had the green one growing up, right?
I saw the purple one.
That stayed in our fridge for years because everyone thought the green ketchup was the grossest looking thing in the world.
It's exactly the same thing.
It tastes the same, but man, when you squeeze out green ketchup, you're like, no, I don't
Yeah, the
think
mid
so.
90s and 80s brought out some weird foods and drinks. My Pepsi's not clear. It's brown.
yeah, so I think I would still like the pizza port. I would want to like update it, but more keep it retro. Like
Okay, so the aesthetics stay the same. Food-wise, keep the same.
you keep it pretty American, but then you would have like a different style of food in the middle.
Okay. So
Of, like,
experiment more.
Experiment more.
There's the foodies out there. They like things that are different, and I feel Tomorrowland really lacks that kind of like
Yes.
unique, special food where they could really. I think they really could take off with it.
They're cardboard pizzas, not special enough for
I
you.
mean, honestly, I've never eaten it, but
It's not good.
I've
I've been told that their gluten-free pizza tastes better than the regular pizza, so that's what I've been told.
Old pizza from 1998. All right, it just hasn't gone bad. All right, so you want more experimental food in the center restaurant area.
Yes. Have it, open up, fountains, more water features in Tomorrowland, bring in the nature.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to change with
I want to get rid of where, it was Carousel Progress used to be. Get rid of it.
It's
The
gone.
Innovations building.
Yeah, get rid of it. Replace it with something else.
The only thing that actually showed the future.
Right.
They used to. It was never that popular, but... Okay, so we get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone. Any kind of replacement for it?
Probably some sort of attraction. Haven't.
I've got an idea of what to put in
yeah.
there, and I'll share it during mine. Anything else? Concluding thoughts of your world or your future, according to Jackie.
Yeah, I just think Tomorrowland should be a better future of Earth and not pretending that it's somewhere else.
And another planet.
Yeah.
I like that. Bring it down to Earth. All right, Peter. Where are you taking us into the future?
Well, we're going to start in the past.
Okay.
Okay, we're starting in the past here because in order to understand what I would like to do with Tomorrowland, you have to understand a lot of history that's taken place. So, for example, we have, the original astronauts, people like NASA and our modern-day scientists and things like that. A lot of them, if you were to ask them what inspired them to do what they wanted to do, they either said, I rode this ride at Disneyland, or I watched this show on Wonderful World of Disney when Walt Disney hosted it. Or Walt was always about education and teaching people and inspiring people to see worlds that they never thought were possible. And I think that's one thing that I felt Disney has definitely drifted away from in terms of, when it comes to their source of entertainment, whether it be for movies or for theme parks. They've kind of drifted away from that inspiring entertainment in terms of inspiring people into that world of science or space or whatnot. And so I kind of want to take us into that world where we look at the world of science in general. So for the most part, the hardest part for me was just wanted to get an eraser and erase the entire land. So I had to restrict myself and I'm keeping, for the most part, most of what's there now.
Oh boy!
In terms of structure.
Okay, it's kind of different from what I thought you would do. I was expecting bulldoze, baby, bulldoze.
Well, in my honest opinion, I do feel that way. You can bulldoze that entire park because if you look at the map, Tomorrowland literally takes up almost a third of the entire park. And so, there's so much space there. And I always thought, Tomorrowland, we like to rip on Tomorrowland, but Tomorrowland is still one of the most populated lands in the park. There's still more people there than in most other sections of the park. So, to say it's a failure is kind of be yeah, does it not look very good? Yeah, it doesn't look very good, but it's still popular. So,
what makes it popular?
I think a lot of the attractions do. I think the big draw is Space Mountain.
Space Mountain, Star Tours, those are pretty big.
So, for example, an easy modification I have to Space Mountain is just to add a little bit of a story element, because as far as we know, there is no story element to Space Mountain. You get in a rocket and you just fly around space. I would just add a little theme, maybe you're on your way to transport to another station, another location, but then some system malfunction in your rocket, and so you're flying around until you're pulled back into the space station.
I like that. That's a really good theming story for Space Mountain.
So it kind of gives it a purpose instead of we're just flying around like crazy. It's a joyride. So that was definitely one of the.
Would you bring back the surfer music?
I like the surfer music. People like to rip on the surfer. I love that. That was great. I love that. I don't have a problem with any of the music that they've had with it. Obviously, I'm okay with new music. I'm always, as long as it's better than what was there before.
I didn't like the Chili Peppers overlay.
That was pretty bad. I really remember writing that, the Red Hot Chili Peppers overlay of Space Mountain. That was pretty bad. All right, so like for the most part, that's the main part that doesn't change too much. Obviously, I'm going to move the Astro Orbiter back to its original
So you're
home.
going back up?
Oh, yeah.
It's going back
you
up.
put it down, Jackie. You can't put it back where
You've
it's been
destroyed
going
it.
No, I didn't destroy that one. It's up in the front.
No, he wants to take that out and put it back.
I want to put it back in the center.
Okay.
So I'm moving that back to the middle. It's going to be, as I said, the weenie. It's
Is Ariel Grotto coming back? Is she going to get her grotto?
That's a whole other. But, I never considered that, but you could do a Tomorrowland theme of that area because it's technically in that area. So now that Tinkerbell's no longer
Should we do the Epcot graveyard?
the what is it, the monoliths that
Yes, that they put
actually
up.
put them back up.
Did they put them back up?
It's on like a wall now, outside the entrance of Epcot now.
Okay.
And for those that don't know, there were these like monoliths that you could pay to have a picture taken.
The size of a dime.
Yeah,
Really
it's really tiny picture of you or your family, and it'll be forever at Epcot, and it looks really bad.
It looked like
A memorial.
a memorial. It does.
The way it was positioned before, now it's just like pictures on a wall outside of the park. It used to be the first thing you saw when you entered Epcot. Now you'll see it. You might see it if you're walking by that.
It was a money grab.
Yeah, it just looked bad. So there's no graveyard there.
There's no graveyard. So a lot of the attractions do go though.
Okay.
So a lot of the attractions. So like Star Tours, we don't need Star Tours anymore.
No.
Because we have
Got
Galaxy's
like
Edge.
a whole land there.
And honestly, like the Millennium Falcon ride is, like, I know it's not the same ride system, but it's pretty darn close to it.
It's 2.0.
Yeah, it's Star Tours 3.0 because
Oh yeah, that's right. We
if there was an
I
upgrade,
thought it was
to
like
Star
1.1,
Tours.
Yeah.
1.2. They upgraded, but we're okay.
Buzz Lightyear, great attraction,
Love
but
it.
it's old. It needs to go.
It's true.
Obviously, the Interventions building, nothing's ever been good there.
I remember when they had like exhibits from like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Where there's like, oh, okay, this is like Tomorrowland.
But it runs into the same issue that any sponsored pavilion has, is
money.
it requires other businesses to contribute money and product, and it always ends up flat.
Yeah,
and
it's like the bedroom of the future. And
Yeah.
that was so cool.
That
You're
was
like,
really
would be great.
cool.
You go back to your own room where you got like thumbtack posters. And you're like, where's my Tinkerbell, like Captain Hook themed room?
Correct. The submarine ride is, I've taken that out.
Concrete in it? Concrete?
No, I'll get back
got a
to
good
that.
theme for it?
I've, as well as Autopia, that's all gone as well. For the most part, in terms of like the main part of Tomorrowland, I've kept most of the structures. Probably the only one that does probably get demolished just because of its size and its shape would be the Innovations building. That one would be leveled 4. This is, again, I'm going back in time, but I want to do an alteration on it. So in Epcot, there was an attraction called Horizons, which honestly people saw it as a successor to another classic attraction that you can still experience at Disneyland, at Disney World, which was great. There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. Carousel of Progress. There we go. Carousel of Progress. And this was like, Horizons was like the successor. So what Horizons was like, sorry, let me backtrack. Carousel of Progress was a look at the past up to modern day.
Yeah, they show you like a future. They show you the future
With Laserdisc.
with Laserdisc from the 1980s and like big snow boots. I always loved it. I love Carousel of Progress.
It's a great attraction.
I love it.
So Horizons,
Full of vacuum tubes is just great.
so Horizons kind of took off where that attraction ended and went to the future. And it showed you what life was like in the future in terms of living in underwater cities, living up in space, living in the desert, which we do now, but making it more efficient instead of desolate, barren land.
Moisture farming out in Tatooine.
Moisture farm. That's right. And so, and you know what? And to kind of modify, because I don't necessarily want like a scene for scene recreation of that. It definitely needs to be updated. If you were to see the original attraction, you would definitely see that it needs to be updated. But it still held that glimpse of a possible future that's still nowhere close to happening. And it's still something to aspire towards. That like, oh, that would be cool to have your own personal like underwater pod that you can take from like community to community in the water, you know, or your own private little spaceship that you can go to different little space stations across space. I think that's great. You can maybe change the desert scene to a Mars scene, I guess. So like that was one idea I had. It was a great attraction. A lot of Disney fans that have experienced that attraction missed that attraction.
I would get the occasional, while working at Mission Space, which is where Horizon used to be, I'd get the fans like, bring back Horizon. Just like, get out of here. I was like, it ain't coming back, guy.
So yeah, so that would be, in my opinion, probably like the big attraction. I would feel besides Space Mountain, the other it's a nice people eater sort of attraction.
Wait, it eats people.
It eats people. What I mean by that, it means it pulls in a lot of people, and it's good for like you're not waiting in long lines.
I have a story where I misspoke. I was working at the Haunted Mansion once, and the Hall of Presidents is nearby, and I told guests, oh, Hall of Presidents is a good kidnapper show. And they're like, they steal kids? And I'm like, I came out wrong. It's a great place for your kids to take naps. It's like Grover Cleveland comes in and eats your child, you know.
All right. I don't know where to transition from that.
Come on, Grover Cleveland? Oh,
no. Grover Cleveland had a situation with his body, which brings me into my next part.
Sorry, Peter.
So, in the Star Tours location, everyone knows that ride vehicle. I'm going to keep the ride vehicle. I'm going to bring back another Epcot attraction. I'm pulling a lot of Epcot.
You want old school. Yeah, you want to bring Epcot in there because Epcot's not even Epcot anymore.
I know, exactly. I'm trying to bring, because technically at one point before California existed, there was planned to bring a Westcott. They were going to do that on the West Coast because of poor performance at Disneyland Paris. All of that got scrapped. I want to bring back an updated version of an attraction called Body Wars, which did come out after Star Tours originally, but it was just basically this journey where you're traveling through the human body. You're shrunk down into a human body, and so you got to see, different parts of the human body. You got to travel through blood vessel through the veins, and
I wrote
a lot of red. Yes,
and I remember going through.
I wrote it actually right before it closed forever.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because they literally it was closed my entire time I was working there, and they opened it up during the holiday rush. Mm-hmm. So I got to see that right before it closed forever, as well as Cranium Command.
Cranium Command. I don't remember
that. That's another 80s show that does not work. It definitely does not age well. That's for sure. A lot of old SNL references from the 80s. So yeah, it's just your ability to examine the human body and obviously, something might happen and it'll force you to go through parts that you weren't expecting to. Maybe you'll go up to the brain or through a heart or something like that. So I would like to bring back that attraction in a sense where you don't get nauseated riding it, so that it's programmed better, because the motions and the video did not match at all, and so
because it was
sick.
Star Tours program, and then the video was not the same.
And a little trivia about the original Body Wars: the video footage was all directed. Do you know who the director was?
Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy.
Oh.
Mr. Spock directed the original Body Wars video.
I know that because of my research, because I'm doing the exact same thing.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, oh, I know this question.
So that was kind of my idea for that. So like you have that inspiration. So we have the inspiration for like space travel and living in the future, what life will be like in the future. We have examination of the human body, maybe for future doctors or whatnot, a way to inspire the younger generation. And then we have what I want to do with Buzz Lightyear is have another. It sounds like I'm just bringing back old rides. So I'm
Forget Tomorrowland 1998. I want to go Epcot 1981.
I want to bring updated versions of these old rides. So like there was an old attraction, which is where Star Tours is now, called Adventure Through Inner Space, where you're thrown into a microscope and you're shrunk down into a snowflake. Well, it doesn't have to be a snowflake; it can be anything. But you're thrown into the world of atoms and science and things like that. So at least something science-based, scientifically based, so that like, we get that world that I don't necessarily think we get to see too much of today.
No, I agree. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. So like that's what I have in mind for the main part of Tomorrowland. I don't change necessarily a lot of the structures.
So you still have that same corridor you walk down.
Yes. That's all the same. Oh, and of course, I do resurrect the People Mover because it is the most essential Tomorrowland attraction there is.
It's nice when you go to Disney World and you ride and you're like, oh, this is great.
It's one of the most relaxing, peaceful
rides. It is a slow-paced ride for Tomorrowland.
That anyone can ride. It's a great way to like relax a little bit, to step away, and just go for a cool run. Okay, so that's the main part of Tomorrowland that everyone thinks of when you think of Tomorrowland.
So what are you doing on the back end?
Yeah.
So the back end, the submarine ride and the Autopia, which take up a huge portion.
I'd say it takes a fifth of the park almost.
It's a huge portion, and I feel a lot of it's underused. So I would like more of a water-themed area.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that.
So, because my big worry, because I do love the water feature. I do love the lake with the Matterhorn. Like, it's a great picturesque scenery. It looks really nice. And so it's like, how do we keep that with taking out the submarines? Because the submarines is a horrible attraction. I hate that ride.
It's like you're always following the guy that farts when he's getting out. And you're like, oh, great, I just ate someone's corn dog. Thanks, dude.
So, like, we're basically taking out Autopia and having more water-based attractions. You can add, like, an undersea restaurant in there, things like that. Just more water attractions, because, honestly, Disneyland has basically one, water ride in terms of, like, you're going to get wet.
True.
And so I think it would help if they had, like, maybe a couple of them. Maybe just some smaller attractions that... They're not like the big e-ticket ones that are going to draw people in, but it'll get enough people in to be entertaining, because it's not always about the big ride. It's sometimes about the smaller rides as well. So we'll have a kind of a futuristic water area.
Okay.
So that's kind of my vision. Obviously, I still keep the monorail. I still feel the monorail is important.
Yes.
It's hard to get rid of it.
Love
Even
the
though you're only
monorail.
going... It's not
To
It's
downtown
not
Disney.
like
Disney
Vision
World where
or like
It's essential.
Yeah, it's not. It really isn't essential.
it's more for the look.
Yep.
I mean, it was cool going back and forth between the hotel and there, and when you're at downtown Disney to jump on it and you're back in the park and stuff. That's where it's cool. Okay.
So yeah. So I went for more of like a education and inspiring location for
Taking old ideas and making them how they would with upgraded technology.
correct.
All right, I like it. There's a lot to work with, and I was not expecting 1980 Epcot so much.
Got a lot of 1980s Epcot for sure.
But you know what is not the dog on that was 1980s is they really went into the future I remember some of those rides when we went back in '92 to Disney World, and just it was kind of out of this world. There were kind of some trips on where you were going.
There was. It was definitely a great, like, I don't know. I just felt it was a very inspiring park at the time. Now it's not. Like, now...
It's, hey, we need to make money.
Yeah.
We need to pull people in. Simpsons are making jokes about us. We got to do something.
Right.
They're the predictor of the future. And that's why Tomorrowland is now Simpson Land. No. All right. Anything else you want to conclude with?
No, I'm good.
All right.
You can go on.
I am going to baby bulldoze. No. I'm going to get rid of a lot of rides. The only thing I'm keeping is Space Mountain. You got to keep it.
Yes.
It's going nowhere.
I'm okay with getting rid of it, but
that's another discussion. We have discussed that before.
I'm okay with just upgrading it.
I do like Peter's theming with bringing a story in there. I love that. Incorporate that in there. It really doesn't change it.
Nope,
it's
doesn't
no
change
different from
the
like
ride.
an overlay, but it does
add a different audio, like, oh no, there's something wrong with the booster.
Oh, yeah, that makes it fun.
Yeah,
and I'm all for that. For me, I like your idea with the Astro Orbiters and putting them back.
Yes.
I think that's really cool. It brings it back.
Opens up the space.
It does open up the space.
It's a bottleneck now.
Jackie brought it up when she was defending Astro Orbiters that she likes them at Disneyland. Or did you bring that up where they're at Disneyland, where they kind of pull you in? Is it kind of a key feature?
Oh, where it pulls you into
Yeah.
the land, yeah.
I like that because it's so easy to not get pulled into that park.
Yes.
Because there's there's some cool Frontierland, and you see there's different that can pull you into the different Tomorrowland. You see that and there's a ride. It's the pretty much only ride in the hub besides the Main Street cars driving in there. I kind of like the idea of that. But I want to bring in Shanghai Disneyland's jetpacks.
Okay.
I think they're really cool. Have you seen them?
No, I haven't.
So I'll describe them. You're basically sitting. It's like how you've done those roller coasters where your feet dangle.
Oh, sure.
You're going to do the same thing.
Oh, that's
You're not
clever.
twisting and moving about, which I don't know. That might be a fun aspect where you can have twirl around, up and down.
You
That
can
would
make it a
be-
real thrill ride.
that
A
would
real
be-
fun
yeah,
ride. If you want.
Or
Or a gentle up and down. And so I think that would be kind of fun. Or you can have an enclosed capsule for families. They're like, I don't know about my feet dangling around. So I think that's...
Little bubbles.
I think you have a little bubble. So there'd be a couple. Who wants a bubble? Who wants the twirly round option?
Sure.
Maybe you can make it a double-decker. Where you have the twirlies up here, and then you have the more family safe down here. I don't know. Just
Okay.
other options. Just spitfiring. I mean, I'm not set on all these, but I think Astro Orbiters, I think it's a simple enough system where you can just add new vehicles for it. Because I hate getting in there and squishing in.
Yeah, I
And,
agree. The ride vehicle is not great, and it's a simple fix, like you said. Make it you're riding a jetpack. That's so fun.
Yeah, it's that seems very futuristic, and I love the Rocketeer, so that goes along with it now. Next, going into Star Wars. No. Yeah, we'll go to Star Tours. I'm with Peter. Body Wars. I wrote it, and I think it's more of the future. Star Tours. We said it's in Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge.
Yep.
Go with Body. Go to Body Wars. Maybe even an Ant-Man theme where you shrink
Oh,
down.
Go to the quantum realm or something.
Mm-hmm. And
Yep.
you're just spinning
I thought about
around
that.
to help that. So, but I know they're going to do something in California Adventure with that,
Marvel.
With Marvel, but
This is not. This is your Tomorrowland. It can be what you want it to be.
yeah. And I'm Body Wars would go more with the theme of bring in the body in the future, and that I always thought that was more future than Star Tours because it was in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. So
Technically, Star Wars is Yesterland.
yes. So let's. I'm just putting it out there. Okay, next. I've really debated with Buzz Lightyear. I like it.
It's a
I
great
love
ride.
the ride itself. The theming, it doesn't.
You do take a step back where oh, this is very kiddie.
But it's
this
fun.
kind of stuff. It's fun. You have a laser gun. You're scoring points. It's a blast. But for those that knew what was there before, it was part of the queue that led to rocket rods. I want to bring rocket rods back.
Okay.
Just build it correctly instead of building it on top of the slow pace
People
People
mover.
mover. Because rocket rods, it was a fun ride. I mean, that ride
We
was
were-
3-4 hour lines.
We were very fortunate enough to actually ride that attraction because that attraction did not last very long before it was scrapped.
It wasn't, and it was.
I think it only lasted like 2-3 years, if that.
Yeah, it was structurally. It was really putting a number on the building or the features there. So I'm kind of for bringing it back.
So for those who don't know, Rocket Rods was on the location of where the People Mover track used to be. So instead of a slow-paced stroll around Tomorrowland, it's a fast thriller attraction that goes around Tomorrowland.
I thought it was a better version than like Test Track or the Carland vehicle.
Oh, it's the same. It's the same. It's the same system.
And it's the same, but I thought they just did a better job in like bringing that thrill, you know, when I was riding that ride as opposed to riding those rides.
Okay.
So I'm all for that. Or if we keep Buzz Lightyear, it's like, okay, then I'm going to take rocket rods and then shoot you underground and do like an underground tunnel system, like a subway system, but it's kind of like moving people. Maybe it's the People Mover 2.0, but we go subterranean, and that way we have more space burrowing through. You know, got like Elon Musk that's got like that burrowing like land car. Well, maybe that's just the People Mover 2.0. Is that we're like, wait, we're skipping the roads. We're going subterranean in a high speed vehicle. So that's how I
like
bring
that.
that in there.
Okay.
You know, so you can keep Buzz Lightyear. I like what Jackie was doing with like kind of update a little bit with the exterior. You can keep Buzz Lightyear, or you can do the People Mover, but like slow it down in parts and then shoot lasers at scenes or something. I don't know if you want to bring kids in, kind of like a Men in Black kind of thing at Universal, how they do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I kind of bringing back Rocket Rod. So yes, I'm bringing back 1998 Tomorrowland. That aspect.
That you've been bashing this whole time?
I haven't, but you know what? That was the one good thing that they did right. But it's the thought of let's move people efficiently. You know, so
not break down for 4 hours. And,
yes, or wait in line and watch Univision of
my
cars.
goodness. Yes,
that room of doom where you're like, oh, this is miserable.
That was the worst part of the queue. Even though like you had something to entertain you,
you couldn't sit on the floor.
You never felt like that part of the queue was ever going to end.
Because once you made it out of the room, you're like, oh, good, we're close. I'm 20 minutes away.
Right.
All right, so we've kind of moved from the first two buildings, and so I'm going to go towards Captain EO's Theater.
Okay.
We haven't really discussed it.
I didn't talk about that.
That's probably one of the hardest things for me is like, what do you put in there? And I think we go more towards Peter with the educational, where like once a year they produce a video of like, what are people working on? Or what were some of the achievements today, and where can
have
they
like
go?
a cool down place for kids to like wind down, maybe take a nap, but also like have an educational.
You know, and like show some of like the Mars vehicles cruising the land. You can kind of move this theater
it
a
also
little bit.
inspires kids for pursuing a career in science.
Yes, and that's why I kind of thought like instead of doing interventions, kind of just do a theater where it gets updated, because there's a lot of cool things. Like there's social media like infographics where they show like this is what happened in science this week or this month, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. You're not going to see that anywhere. You're not going to watch that on the news. It's just kind of glossed over or put in an academic paper that no one's going to read in a journal. So I thought it's like that'd be cool just to have the theater there. And so we've done Star Tours. During my Tomorrowland, I didn't talk anything about food. I'm not really a foodie person.
You were the one who brought it up.
I did, but because I was curious what Jackie wants to do, because she's more into food. Gotcha. And that's why I was like, I didn't do anything. So I was like, maybe we can cover that, and Jackie comes to me, so we can fire off that. So yes, you're right. I didn't think about it, but I was like, oh crud! All in my world of tomorrow is food, like 3D printed food for us. I don't know. Then we'll go to where was it Star Wars Launch Bay, what they have there, or Carousel Progress, or Interventions, what they have in that circular building. I say tear it down.
Yeah.
And Mission Space.
Okay.
I know it's not popular.
It is not.
It's not as popular. It's not, and it costs money. But it's my world of tomorrow.
That's fine. It's your world.
It's my world, and so
I won't be writing it, but
I'll write it.
yeah.
I'll write it 3 times in a row.
And there's a tame version where you're in
Mission
the simulator.
Green.
Yes, Mission Green. Go to the launch rooms.
Yes.
1 and 2. And you got 3 and 4.
I know. I always friends would be like, "Let's go on green," and I'm like, "No, orange."
And for those who don't know, it's a simulator. It's a centrifuge where it spins you, and it gives you the sensation that you're getting launched into space. The theming is great.
It's really cool.
It is a cool experience, to feel like you actually feel like you're in a rocket blasting off into space.
You feel it.
You feel the forces.
It is great.
It would be cool if, one day technology would be cool where you had, an anti-gravity.
They talked about that. That's part of the theming that they wanted to do, is have, an anti-gravity room where you could kind of float. You see some of those in their designs, because we set them in our break room, and you show kids, floating, and they're like, yeah, right. And so they got, a ball pit, kind of Spaceland thing. So I would put Mission Space there, because it brings that, we're going to Mars, we're going to space, you have that rocket theming. Yes, you have Star Tours, but this one brings it closer. Something that's this is what it would be like to get launched into space, and Elon Musk, because he's all about Occupy Mars. That whole ride is meant for that. Instead of having
you can have him sponsor it.
It. I'm sure they would love it. Instead of having Lieutenant Dan,
he doesn't do it anymore.
He doesn't do that. Did they get rid of that?
They got rid of it. They got rid of Lieutenant Dan.
Oh. Because it was based off the movie that they'd done, and he was in that movie, and so, okay. So now we're going off to Autopia, where, the land or the ride of gas and fumes, and so I'm get rid of it. I'm with Jackie, put Tron.
Yeah.
I'm all for put Tron there. It is a roller coaster, and the thing is, you are losing a key ride that kids love. So I was thinking while you were talking about that was have a second track for kids, but they're in cars, but they'd be in the Tron car that Cora was in, that rescued the main character, and so have that interweaving within the track of the roller coaster. Again, I don't know the schematics and where you would do it, but there's a lot of space.
But to have a big e-ticket attraction, but also a kid version that's a little bit smaller.
Yes, because when I watched the video for the Tron roller coaster, it seemed quick. It's a quick, small roller coaster.
It's short,
but it's really cool. For Finding Nemo submarine, I'm for getting rid of it. But I'm for, you're saying, something of the future, showing, water occupation, maybe, and kind of do a Omnimover, where you're going under the water, and you have, a tube around you, so you're seeing the water, around you. You could put, fish in there, but you could put,
so it's like Jurassic World, or the little bubbles.
Maybe,
So you're bringing the original Living Seas attraction into...
Probably. It is kind of like that. Or I'm bringing in the Gungan world from Phantom Menace, Just kind of show, we don't actually...
He's a follow me now,
We still going to drown. So, we don't necessarily have to go to space to occupy. We have oceans, and there's space there, and maybe there's possibilities there. I've heard people wanting to, we can start our own country out in the middle of the ocean, we just start our own platform, and we're in international waters, and we're on, and I was like, that's kind of cool. So I kind of bring, the water feature in there, but I thought it'd be cool, where you're underwater, and you just see kind of, the water and things that could be done. And I think that it gets the Imagineers more freedom of what you can do, what would you build for an underwater city, or what kind of the challenges would you see in transport. Not necessarily let's all get in a submarine from 1950 and eat someone's fart. I don't.
Sit in a really tiny chair and look out a tiny window.
And you're like, oh, there's Nemo. There's a starfish.
I always say this when I get on that ride. When I get off, because it's so dark,
you're sleeping
and warm, you get off, and you're like, I'm ready for a nap. I want to go to sleep.
Then you go to the Hall of Presidents. It's the kidnappers. And so that's kind of like what I would do. I would just really bring in the rides again, but infuse Come of the Future. I think we hold on to some of these old attractions that are from the 50s and some of the theming, and it's like we can really Gucci it up. We can really spruce it up.
Because, like, they were good attractions for their time. They just got outdated and nobody wanted to... It was just cheaper just to replace it instead of updating it to make it look nicer. Because they wanted to sell merchandise.
And
that's fine.
And
that's
part of
their business model.
And that's part of the business model. Like, we're not talking money here. Like,
This
Space is a very expensive ride.
That'll never happen.
And it'll never happen.
Horizons will never happen. You know, Horizons 2.0, that'll never happen.
People Mover 2.0 for me. It's like, will this happen? No, but it's kind of fun. We're in the
have
future
hope.
and we can dream.
I still have hope People Mover will come back.
They can bring back People Mover 1.0.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to replace all of the tracks.
Yeah,
they have to because of foundational issues. But I still feel like there's enough demand for the People Mover that
I think so.
When Disney is finally ready to do it, which doesn't sound like it's anytime soon based off of what my recent hearings are. Yeah, when they're ready to do it, they'll do it.
Yeah, and it's tough. Maybe for the 100th. They'll do something.
Maybe for the 100th anniversary, they'll finally update 98 Tomorrowland.
And bring back the 80s.
Yeah.
80s Tomorrowland,
80s.
that's right.
Go retro.
80s Epcot, that's what we want.
So, I really appreciate all you guys' input on Tomorrowland. I think there were some really cool ideas. It was kind of fun to see your guys' vision. And,
I think a lot of our ideas could easily be combined into one.
Super Tomorrowland.
Double-decker Tomorrowland.
Yodas.
Yes, for sure. Again, thank you to the listeners for listening to our rant about how we can make Tomorrowland better. Please follow us on social media.
Mm-hmm. Let us know what your favorite parts were. Or if you had a different idea, let us know.
I'm all for it. There are some really cool ideas people have shared. I just didn't like them. But you may not like what we've said. And so share what you think. Be like, no. Buzz Lightyear, but 3 stories, with a waterfall. I don't know. But something really cool. Please share with us on our social media. We've got Facebook, Instagram. We've got our email. What else we got, Jackie?
Follow us on most of any podcast streaming service.
Yes.
And YouTube.
And YouTube.
And share this with those who really hate Tomorrowland or complain about it and be like, hey, have you heard about, this Tomorrowland? These guys have some good ideas. And it could be a conversation starter. And it has always been a conversation starter in our house. So thank you for your time and auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Marathon Yodelers. Please remember, before your bobsled comes to a complete stop, to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember...
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.